हृदय श्री राम और को नाम दियो ना दियो जिनके हृदय श्री राम। कोई मंदिर जाके भजन करे, कोई घर में बैठा नाम करे। कोई मंदिर जाके भजन करे, कोई घर में बैठा नाम करे। कोई काशी जाके ध्यान धरे, कोई तीर्थ जाके स्नान करे। कोई काशी जाके ध्यान धरे, कोई तीर्थ जाके स्नान करे। गुरु माता पिता की सेवा की, गुरु माता पिता की सेवा की, गुरु माता पिता की सेवा की, गुरु माता पिता की सेवा की। दिन दान स्नान कियो ना कियो जिनके हृदय श्री राम बसे दिन, और को नाम दियो ना दियो जिनके हृदय श्री राम। कोई मांगे कंचन से काया, कोई मांग रहा प्रभु से माया। कोई मांगे कंचन से काया, कोई मांग रहा प्रभु से माया। कोई पुण्य करे, कोई दान करे, कोई दान करो जब खाना करे। गुरु पुण्य करे, कोई दान करे, कोई दान करो जब खाना करे। गुरु माता पिता की सेवा की, गुरु माता पिता की सेवा की। दिन और बुधान दियो ना दियो जिनके हृदय श्री राम बसे दिन, और को नाम दियो ना दियो जिनके हृदय श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम। जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम 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 जय राम जय जय राम। मनात भरले पंढरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी हसता नाचता,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी हसता नाचता.
Listen, this bhajan is saying, the second part of it said, Pandurangacha darbari bhai hasata nachata, which means where Krishna is, there is joy. Na? They are all happy, they are dancing and clapping their hand. But I don't see you clapping your hands. Eh? Bhajan is not a show. I've been saying that every time I come to South Africa. I come with a hope, but it will get better. Maybe you're tired or you're hungry. No? At least clap your hand. मनात भरले पंढरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी, चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी हसता नाचता,
चंद्र बगेचा बलवंता,
चंद्रवदेचा बलवंता,
तेज अमाचा वैकुंठा,
तेज अमाचा वैकुंठा,
चंद्र बगेचा अरलता, तेज अमाचा वैकुंठा, आनंद भरला गणदाता भय हसता नाचता,
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 मनात भरले पंढरी,
मनात भरले पंढरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
चाले नमन ते माहेरी,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी भय हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी भय हसता नाचता,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारा,
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारा,
संत मिलावे आपारा,
संत मिळावे अपारा,
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारा, संत मिलावे आपारा, हरिनामाचा गजरा भय हसता नाचता,
हरिनामाच्या गजरा भय हसता नाचता,
हरिनामाचा गजरा भय मनते माहेरी
जाहि न मनते माहेरी
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
बोलिया भरला तुकोबा
बोलिया भरला तुकोबा
मनात भरला ज्ञानोबा
मनात भरला ज्ञानोबा
बोलिया भरला तुकोबा मनात भरला ज्ञानोबा मुखात भरला विठोबा भय हसता नाचता
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 मनात भरले पंढरी
मनात भरली पंढरी
जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचे दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
अपार सकले जाओया गोपालपुरा पाहुया
गोपालपुरा पाहोया
अपार सकले जाओया गोपालपुरा पाहुया हरिनाथा होया भय हसता नाचता
हरिताराया गाऊया भय हसता नाचता
हरिचाराया होया भय हसता नाचता
हरिताराया गाऊया भय हसता नाचता
मनात भरले पंढरी
मनात भरली पंढरी
जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
पांडुरंगाच्या दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचे दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
अमृतवाणी करो खरी
अमृतवाणी करो करी
दास दासी भर खरी
दास दासी वरदारी
अमृतवाणी करो खरी दास दासी भर खरी विठलाओ अमृतवाणी भय हसता नाचता
चलाओ वरदारी भय हसता नाचता
विठलाओ अमृतवाणी भय हसता नाचता
चलाओ वरदारी भय हसता नाचता
मनात भरले पंढरी
मनात भरली
पंढरी जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचे दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचे दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचे दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
मनात भरले पंढरी
मनात भरली पंढरी
जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
जाहि न म्हणते माहेरी
पांडुरंगाचा दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
पांडुरंगाचे दरबारी भय हसता नाचता
विठ्ठल विठ्ठल पांडुरंगा
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 पांडुरंगा पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा
पांडुरंगा पांडुरंगा
विठ्ठल बरवा तोह माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तो माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोह माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तो माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोह माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोहा माधव तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोहा माधव बरवा तोहा रूपा पातलोचनी रूपा पातलोचनी रूपा पातलोचनी हे तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तो विठ्ठल बरवा तो माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोहा माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल विठ्ठल माधव 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 विठ्ठल 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 माधव माधव विठ्ठल विठ्ठल माधव 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 विठ्ठल 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 माधव 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 विठ्ठल विठ्ठल बहुदान सुकृतांची जोडी बहुदान सुकृतांची जोडी बहुदान सुकृतांची जोडी बहुदान सुकृतांची जोडी मानुनी विठ्ठली नवाडी मानुनी विठ्ठली नवाडी तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तो माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोहा माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोहा माधव बरवा रूपा पातलोचनी रूपा पातलोचनी बहुधा सुकृताची जोडी बहुधा सर्व सुखाचे मगर सर्व सुखाचे मगर वापर कुमाई देवी वरू वापर कुमाई देवी वरू तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तो माधव बरवा तोहा विठ्ठल बरवा तोहा माधव बरवा तोहा Vittala Vittala Madhava 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 Vittala 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 Madhava 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 Vittala Vittala Madhava 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 Vittala 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 Madhava 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 Vittala Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari Jai Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari Jai Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari 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 Pandrinath Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai Gurudev, everyone. Thinking about what to speak to all of you about today, I remember an incident in my early days with Guruji. See, I started like we all start, in a place where we don't have any knowledge and where we don't have experience. And the same way that a child's mind is formed through the experience of its senses, we form our identity based on the inputs that enter our life. And so when we endeavor on a spiritual journey with a living master, and I'd like to put the stress on the word master because there are many categories of guru, and each of them is very important, and each of them has a role to play for people where they are. But I had a wish as a child, and that wish was, I want to feel the presence of God. I didn't want anything else. I didn't want to see God. I didn't want to hear Him. I wanted to feel His presence. I also understood that I can experience Him in the mechanism of my body. Through this body, I should be able to feel His presence. And so, without knowing what it is that I should do, what carried me from day to day, from the time that I was about 6 years old, what carried me from day to day was this thirst. The thirst that will not be fulfilled by anything but to have the experience of feeling God's presence. And so years passed. That thirst led me to understand that something must be wrong with me. Something must be wrong with this body. Why can it not perceive the presence of the divine, the presence of God? And so I began to seek through information, through books, looking at ancient people and how they related to God. what names they called him by, what rituals did they perform, how did they become close to God. But nothing gave me a satisfactory answer. I devoured books as a teenager. I was so fixated. Why can I not feel your presence? And so when I was about 18, just after finishing high school, I knew I couldn't do what the other kids in my class were doing. I knew that I had to find the answer to what I'm looking for. And so without telling my parents, I left home. And I returned to the town that I was born, where I lived in poverty. But the strong desire continued inside of me. Where is that God? Why can I not feel his presence? And so several miraculous things happened. And I started the path towards what would become the day I meet my God. So step by step, I started my journey through learning every conceivable modality of healing, because I understood I needed healing. There are many things inside of me that prevent me from seeing, that prevent me from experiencing the presence of God. And so quickly I grew in skill, I grew in confidence, I grew in knowledge regarding the mind and the body and what causes us to experience discomfort and disease. And was able to help many people, but still I didn't taste the divine presence. So one day when I had just turned 23, no, I just turned 22, I received this information that a young Mauritian saint is going to come to South Africa. There was no information about him. There was no picture of him. It was just saying he will have an event in a certain location. And so I said to the person who read this email to me, I want to go with you. It was 2 weeks before the event. And so the day of the event arrives and we go to the location, which was just 1 block away from where I was working and living at the time. And so we entered the room and there were so many other people in the same field. There were yoga people, there were different kind of therapists, there were Reiki people, there were so many different, all there because we are seeking. And because we want to see, what does a young Mauritian saint look like? And what does it mean? This was my curiosity, because I understood even from then saints are the friend of God. And so he must have some association with God. And if I, even for a short time, associate with him, something good will come, something good will happen to me. And so, waiting for him on that day, he eventually appeared. It seemed like out of nowhere. We had all been waiting for about 2.5 hours. And then I heard the room go quiet. And when I opened my eyes, he was standing on a short stage just in front of me, and I realized that I recognized him. I had no way of knowing at that moment that my entire life is going to change. So please understand, I have no background, at least not in this life. I have no background, no prior knowledge, no experience in what it is to be in a relationship with a guru, or even that a guru is required. So I watched him as he gave this overflowing love to everybody present. One at a time, people were coming, he would gaze at what looked like their eyes, but from seeing and from watching, I figured, oh, he's not looking at their eyes, he's looking at something else. And then time passed, and it was my turn. So again, he looked, and then after embraced me as he did every person before. And what I became aware of was this overwhelming sense of love. I couldn't understand it or explain it. And so I decided I'll sit closer and look at him. And so as I was watching him, I was observing that he suspended his breath for 7 minutes at a time. And so this would become something of importance in a later conversation I would have with Guruji. Time passed. He came back to South Africa again 2 more times. On the third occasion of his visit to South Africa, he was giving darshan in a Hindu temple in Lenasia South. I had gone with a friend of mine, and entering the room, there were about 1,000 people as it was Mahashivaratri. The Guruji was giving darshan. At the same time, lingams were coming out of his body. I observed that it must be really painful for him. And then it was my turn. I knelt in front of him, and he looked down at me, and he said my name, and he asked how I was. And I looked at him in shock, because I had made sure never to write my name in any books, not to speak to anybody at a darshan. I would take darshan usually and leave afterwards. And so in my shocked state, thinking in my mind, how does he know my name? And then he wanted to make a conversation, and I was like, in my mind, again, there are so many people behind me, it would be rude. So I got myself out of the conversation. And then I asked my friend, did you tell him my name? And he said, how? I was 10 people behind you. And so we left, and we tried to get out of Lenasia South, but for 2 hours we literally went in circles. The next day comes. At that time, Guruji was giving vibhuti. So I took this vibhuti, and somebody said, you can put it on your forehead, you can mix it with water. And then I remember I was preparing lunch, and I was cutting up an onion. And the smell of the vibhuti was so strong, it overpowered the smell of the onion. And as I was standing there at the counter, I can still see myself. In my right ear, I hear his voice speaking very gently, saying a name in my ear. I couldn't deny that this is my name, even though it's not my name in this birth. It said a few times, this voice, 5 or 6 times, this name. I was frozen. And then I thought, that's interesting. and I carried on cutting the onion. So the next day, so at this point Guruji is still in South Africa. The next day, I wake up in the morning and I'm doing my morning routine. So I'm sitting on the toilet. And again, the same voice, his voice, this time with so much force, hits into my ear 7 times, says the name and the surname again and again. And the immediate response from inside of me was, I have to find out how I can serve him. Again, I have no history of this. It's not culturally a part of me. I have no training in this. I have no way of knowing what the importance of this moment is. There is nothing to compare it to. So now, I reach for the flyer and I call the person that was the first organizer for Guruji and I say, who is this person and how can I serve him? These words came out of my mouth, how can I serve him? So it became that I meet her and she shows me in her home all of the Vibhuti miracles, the Lingam Guruji materialized for her, the ring he made for her, all of these manifestations. And I say to her, but I'm not interested in this. Who is he? I want to know him. So now you have to see, it's like an insurmountable wall. I cannot get over the wall. I can see the wall, but there's no way for me over it. I'm on the other side of the inside. I'm standing completely on the outside. So many of you are taking initiation today. You are still standing on the outside of the wall. I was completely on the outside. And what I knew is that I have to get his attention. I want to be in his space. I didn't know why, but it was very important. It felt like something really important. And so you are looking, right? But are you really desperate? Do you really want to obtain, to have? Do you know what it feels like to burn inside of you? Do you really yearn for God? I was yearning for him. And I understood that there are so many things wrong with me. My eyes cannot perceive, my ears cannot hear, my body cannot feel the presence of God. And so another year passes. He draws me closer. I take the first step in the journey to my relationship with him. And in this he offers me brahmachari. That was my first initiation. There was no devotee initiation. He offered me brahmachari. And he initiated me as a brahmachari. It was like entering into a cyclone. Everything that was wrong inside of me was amplified even more. My skill as a healer, this means nothing. It's like a drop of sugar water in the ocean. he showed me that for all intents and purposes, I know nothing of myself and I know nothing of life. Brick by brick, he broke me. He shone the light into the places I didn't want any light. And in my mind I was questioning myself, but why is this so painful? I didn't realize that he knew my prayer. The prayer I made when I was 6. The prayer that I made when I was 12. The prayer I made every day of my life, that I want to feel the presence of God. And so again, it was not by any ritual or the keeping of any rules or the keeping, none of these things brought me to that place. It was the desire, the yearning to feel the presence of God. So when he revealed to me after my brahmachari initiation, the continuous tests that would happen revealed to me the negative qualities inside of me: pride, arrogance. Revealed to me all the things that are not required. It was painful. It was very painful. He never gave up. He kept pushing. And he never let me give up. He gave me the strength to face all the things about myself, to accept all the things about myself that I would not. When I thought I understood, he showed me, no, you don't. Go deeper. When I thought I knew what my mind was, what my heart was, he showed me, no, you don't know, go deeper. And so I know what it is to be in the hands of him. I know what it is to be corrected. I know the grace of that fire. Another year passes. Two years after my brahmachari initiation, we were standing to say goodbye to Guruji as he was leaving Mauritius. It had been a really difficult trip, as there were lots of things going on inside of me. They were only mine, my perceptions, my story, my pain. I was a full eye specialist. And so he looked at me and he said to me, my name was Mangalananda at the time. He said to me, soon, my Mangalananda. And he embraced me for the first time in the 4 years that I had known him. And he got into the car and he left. And the next time I saw him, by now I know some kind of process will go on inside of me. and there wasn't any painful reaction. And I noticed that his behavior changed completely. And he gave me the closeness. He gave me his friendship. And more time passes. Then he says to me, I am going to initiate you as a Swami. So I have no idea even what this means. I mean, technically I know what it means, the word Swami. And so on his birthday in 2008, he initiated. He gave an incredible grace that I'm still working to understand. And so the fire becomes different. He never explains with words. You should be like this, you should do that, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. No. Everything is by experience. Walking next to him is by experience. And so, receiving the grace of being a Swami, again there should be test. And this test was about, you think you are, but you are not. So you think you are a Swami, but are you? And so he began to peel away inside of me the idea I had of what it means to be a Swami. And he gave several experiences that showed me, move the focus from you to me, to God. So we may have a lot of knowledge about how to do many things. We may understand Shastra. We may understand Parampara. We may understand the how. But did you taste? Are you experiencing? To read the recipe in a book and to cook the meal and eat it are two different things. And so by observation and by his extreme, precise guidance, he brings me to Mahakumbha Mela in 2014. It was the night before Shahi Snan, the main bath of the whole Mela at Prayagraj. Guruji had managed to arrange something incredible where for centuries it had not been happening. Vaishnava and Shaivite will enter the Sangam together. So Niranjanakara and us will enter the water together. So on the night before this, we were in Guruji's room and the air was electric with excitement. the mood of Guruji was so ecstatic. We were reading the amazing story of Radharaman Charan Das, one of the greatest Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And we were reading the story of how a dog became the devotee of him. I was sitting on the floor and I was reading. Guruji was sitting, there were two single beds in the room, he was sitting on one of them. And one devotee from Nepal was pressing one foot of Guruji, and a devotee from America was pressing the other foot of him. And so he looks over at me and he says, Swami. He had never called me Swami till that day. And I say to him, yes, Swami. And he says, come and sit next to me. And I sit next to him on his left side on this single bed. And then he takes his head, my head, in his left hand, and he presses my head against his head so that our eyes are in a line. And he says to me, look. He points to the bed in front of us and he says, look. And I don't see anything. And he says, no, look carefully. And as I look, I see the form of Lord Krishna as a 3 or 4-year-old child sleeping. I see the movement of his body as he breathes. He's laying on a peepal leaf that is shining like thousands of diamonds. His body is created out of light and dark. Every single detail of him, eyelash, hair, fingernails, all the jewelry decorating his body. And in my mind I have a thought, because I know the form of the Lord from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he has his right foot in his mouth. And I think this thought in my mind, and I'm turning to Guruji and he says, it's not the form that you are used to. And together with seeing him, there is the overwhelming feeling of how huge this is. That there is no border, there is no upper limit. It is the overflowing grace, overflowing love, overflowing. It was a multi-dimensional experience. I cannot put into words the feeling that I had. And so I was not watching Krishna for a minute or 2 minutes. For 20 minutes he was there. And then I remembered that I had asked Guruji a question the day before, because I suddenly felt that my entire life has no purpose or meaning. And so he said to me on that boat in the middle of the Ganges in Varanasi, you feel like this because your life aim is not 100% fixed. And so I said to him, but I don't know how to fix an aim. You would have to do it. And then he said, let me think about it. This was his reply. Giving me the darshan of Krishna was his reply. And I understood then that it is not Krishna that is my goal. It is his feet that are my goal. My body automatically started to bang the head on the floor. And even though I didn't know about chapter 10 and 11 of Bhagavad Gita, in which Arjuna received the Vishwasvarupa Darshan, and then his reply to that, his apology for ever seeing Krishna as a normal person. This came out of my mouth. I had never seen the Gita. It was not important for us at the time. And so he gave me my goal. And together with that, he gave me what it takes to feel the presence of God. The next day, as I sat on my bed, I saw in front of me all the things that I desire, all my wishes. And each of them only had to do with me. What I want, what I need, what I must have. And some of them even wanted to be private. Nothing to do, he should not know. It felt like a battle was going on inside of me. And so I thought of him and I said, I don't know what this is about, but I want to surrender it to you. And as I was sitting on my bed with my danda in my hand, I fell asleep after this battle. My roommate told me then, as soon as I fell asleep, Guruji walked into the room and he stood in front of me for 10 minutes just looking at me. And after 10 minutes, he gave me the possibility to perceive him. So I opened my eyes and I felt completely exposed. I knew that he knew everything. He has shown me so many times. He knows everything. And so he looked at me and he tried to have a normal conversation, but still I felt completely naked. And I was really disturbed. So he said, come, what's wrong with you? Let's go to lunch. So we go to lunch and then he sang on this day, the first time Vrindavan Mahima, the glory of Vrindavan. And he was wearing a rose garland. And he saw the pain inside me. So he took the garland and he put it on me, and I could feel the radiance of love that lightened this pain inside of me. And more time passes. And now we are here. And so I want to say to you, you are sitting in this presence. You come here because of something you think you may want. There's something that's missing or lacking, or some problem is there in your life. Or maybe you know that this is the solution for a spiritual query that you have. And Guruji was saying, and is saying again and again about this Bhagavad Gita that describes the journey of Arjuna from his ignorance to his realization. And so the chance that we have is only as far as our willingness. Your own mind and the story in your mind about yourself, about what this all is either the limit or beyond the limit. I can tell you, matter of factly, there is nothing he cannot do, give, fix. I've had enough experience to know. I can tell you that you should consider, that you should approach with sincerity. I can tell you, but it doesn't matter. Because I started where you are starting. And what Krishna says in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, when he says, the way you surrender to me is the way I surrender to you. My life is this story. I didn't do anything. I didn't have to do anything. He gave me the possibility to live. He gave me the possibility to love. He gave me the possibility to have a relationship with God. And to close, I was visiting his ashram in Germany 3 years ago. And Guruji was getting ready. It was Just Love Festival. And I was standing in the door of his bathroom as he was applying his tilak on his forehead. And I looked at him and I could feel tears filling my eyes. And I thought in my mind, how is it possible? How is it possible that God is my friend? And so as this thought passed through my mind, he turned his head and he said to me, in a joking way, maybe if you do some regression, then you'll know why. And he turned his face back to complete his tilak. And so to close, I want to say to you, it's very expensive, this journey. It's very expensive. You only have to give up everything you thought you knew. That's the price. And it is a door to just love. It is not possible really to express or to say to you in words. He can say to you to read the Gita. I can invite you to attend an online Bhagavad Gita Zoom class. We can do so much. He can do everything. But do you really want? Do you really want to love God and to be loved by God? This is the very big question. Jai Gurudev.